Another suicide bombing has hit the Iraqi capital. This time, 5 people were killed and 39 were injured. Authorities say that the bomber detonated a car packed with explosives at the main entrance to Iraq's Interior Ministry. Last Thursday, 20 bombing attacks across Baghdad killed nearly 70 people, raising fears widespread sectarian violence could return. And those attacks came just days after the U.S. pulled its last troops out of Iraq. Let's get more on today's attacks. Arwa Damon joins me live from the Iraqi capital. And Arwa, you have new and disturbing information on this deadly attack.
That's right, Christy. A source within the Ministry of Interior itself was telling us that they believe that the suicide car bomber came from outside of Baghdad. What this means is that he would have had to go through at least 6 checkpoints. This raises a lot of questions, naturally, especially since following Thursday's attacks, Iraqi security forces were supposed to be on high alert. The checkpoints across the capital had increased. Searches were supposed to be even more stringent than they have been in the past. So how was it that a bomber was able to drive through and reach the Ministry of Interior, a heavily fortified compound? This brings up many questions when it comes to the level of the capabilities of the Iraqi security forces, how infiltrated they may be, perhaps corruption also at play here. So a lot of answers that Iraqis are going to want to hear, and they're especially going to want to know what the government and the Iraqi security forces are going to do to prevent this from happening again, Christy.
Let's expand on this. I'm getting your thoughts about why this attack took place and why the attacker was successful. Arwa, is there a security vacuum there after the U.S. troop withdrawal, or could the political turmoil be playing a role?
Well, the U.S. military for the last few years has actually not been directly patrolling the streets. That was part of the whole security agreement that saw them withdraw from cities and towns. So security has pretty much on the day-to-day level been in the hands of the Iraqi security forces. There were, however, great concerns about a security vacuum following the U.S. troop withdrawal, quite simply because it would embolden various insurgent groups who know that the Iraqi security forces no longer have America to call on should they end up stuck in a bind. It also underscores various realities that exist here when it comes to the capabilities of the Iraqi security forces and, again, whether or not they have been infiltrated. As for the timing of it, whether or not it's tied to politics, that we're going to have to wait and see. It's going to depend on if anyone takes responsibility for this or the results of an investigation. But there is one thing that is quite clear, Christy, and that is that politics and violence here do tend to be quite intertwined. So the political uncertainty ends up creating a vacuum, and that vacuum is often, when it comes to Iraq, filled with acts of violence.
And how are the Iraqi people reacting to all this? How many have faith that Iraqi security forces and their government are able to secure their country?
There's very little faith, Christy, and that faith is dwindling by the day. Iraqis, especially in the capital, they're angry, they're frightened, and they're incredibly frustrated. They're watching their government now appearing to crumble like a deck of cards. There's all sorts of controversy surrounding that arrest warrant that was issued for the Sunni vice president. That is very much being viewed as a Shia-dominated government trying to take out its Sunni opponents. That is concerning many Iraqis. The politicians here are growing increasingly polarized, and Iraqis are wondering exactly what kind of a nation it is that America left behind, because very few of them would actually call it a stable democracy like President Obama did.